So I wanted to talk about the horror bingo that is being hosted by Wicked Reading. So this is like a readathon, but with a bingo board. And I love the idea of readathons, but an issue for me has always been that a month is too short to commit to a TBR for me. I know some people can consistently read like a ton of books like every month, and it's just like it ebbs and flows for me. I think this last month actually, I think I have not read one book. I'm currently reading 3 books and it is taking forever. But yeah, like I really struggle. So I love the idea of a horror bingo lasting like a year. This bingo board will last from October 1st this year until September 30th of 2025. And the idea is to fill out the board with mostly horror novels or something spooky adjacent. And of course, you can do whatever kind of bingo you want. If you want to do like a traditional bingo or do a blackout board, you can go as hard as you want. But yeah, I'll go through the rows and then like what books I'm thinking of reading for each square. And of course, Wicked Reading has their own video, and I will put that, if I can figure out how to put it right here, I will put it right here. Otherwise, I will put it at the end of this video, and of course link it in the description. Alright, so the top row, the first square, has to be published in 2024. The description says, read a book published in 2024. This also would include a translated work that was published in its translated version in 2024, even if it was originally published in a previous year in the author's native language. So basically, like, if a book was originally published by the author, like, I don't know, like let's say 5 years ago, but the English translation is only coming around in 2024, then that would be your book. And honestly, like, there are a ton of horror novels that I am interested in reading that are coming out this year. So there's probably a lot more of my choices that could probably fit in this square, but the one specifically that I was thinking of is Private Rites by Julia Armfield. So here is the description. It's been raining for a long time now, for so long that the lands have reshaped themselves and the cities have retreated to higher stories. As old places have disappeared, arcane rituals have crept back into practice. Sister Isla, Irene, and Agnes have not spoken in some time when their estranged father dies. A famous architect revered for making the new world navigable. Navigable? Is that a word? Navigable. They find themselves uncertain of how to grieve his passing when everything around them seems to be ending anyway. As the sisters come together to clear the grand glass house that is the pinnacle of his legacy, they begin to sense that the magnetic influence of their father lives through it. Soon it becomes clear that the others have taken an interest in both his estate and them, and perhaps their inheritance may not be theirs alone. So something that I thought was interesting about this book, and I've kind of only heard other people talk about it and have it like on their TBRs, I think it's supposed to be like it's supposed to be like semi-apocalyptic, and also like extremely religious. I can't remember, like I think there's like some kind of like, I want to say like satanic panic like going on. I can't remember, but it sounded really interesting when I heard someone else talk about it. To clarify, this is a TBD, like we've learned, not a TBR, because I cannot focus enough on a reading list to actually stick with it. So this is TBD. In fact, the way I typically like to approach a lot of these readathons is to forget that I'm doing it and then come back like at the end of the month and be like, oh yeah, did I meet any of these goals? But yeah, the next square is The End Times Are Near, a book that is considered apocalyptic, hard mode. Oh, and sorry, this is another thing. Each square has like a hard mode if you want to challenge yourself even more. And so the hard mode for the previous one, published in 2024, is read it before the end of 2024. And so for this one, The End Times Are Near, read a book that is considered apocalyptic, hard mode. The book includes an epilogue. I think Private Rites is supposed to be semi apocalyptic. So I put that for a possibility for this square as well. Oh my goodness, I'm having such a hard time talking. Another book that I put for this challenge is The Sleepless by Victor Manibo. The description for this one says, in a near future New York City, where a minority of the population has lost the need for sleep, a journalist fights to uncover the truth behind his boss's murder on the eve of a sinister corporate takeover, while his own sleeplessness spirals out of control. A mysterious pandemic causes a quarter of the world to permanently lose the ability to sleep. Without any apparent health implications, the outbreak creates a new class of people who are both feared and ostracized, most of whom optimize their extra hours to earn money. Jamie Vega, a journalist at C+P Media, is one of the sleepless. When his boss dies in a suicidal overdose, Jamie doesn't buy this too convenient explanation, especially given its suspicious timing during a controversial merger, and investigates. But everything goes awry when Jamie discovers that he was the last person who saw Simon alive and realizes that he has no memory of that night. Not only do the police suspect him, Jamie can't account for the lost time, and the memory loss may have to do with how he became sleepless. Not naturally, but by biohacking his body through a risky and illegal process. As Jamie delves deeper into Simon's final days, he tangles with extremist organizations and powerful corporate interests, and must confront past traumas and the unforeseen consequences of biohacking himself. But soon faces the most dangerous decision as all, as he uncovers a terrifying truth about the sleeplessness that imperils him and all of humanity. I assume for myself that reading about pandemics won't be too much, but we'll see. And so I also chose another option just in case that one doesn't pan out. The other book that I was thinking for this challenge was Our Share of Night by Mariana Enríquez and Megan McDowell, who is the translator. So the description says, Gaspar is 6 years old when the order first comes for him. For years they have exploited his father's ability to commune with the dead and the demonic, presiding over macabre rituals where the unwanted and the disappeared are tortured and executed, sacrificed to the darkness. Now they want a successor. Nothing will stop the order, nothing is beyond them. Surrounded by horrors, can Gaspar break free? Spanning the brutal decades of Argentina's military dictatorship and its aftermath, Our Share of Night is a haunting, thrilling novel of broken families, cursed inheritances, and the sacrifice a father will make for his son to escape his destiny. Is this apocalyptic? I don't know if this is this is apocalyptic. Why did I put this here? I don't know. Sounds interesting. Yeah, I'll have to check to see if that is apocalyptic, because I'm not sure reading that description that's apocalyptic. That's okay. I think I put it other under squares, so it should be fine. This is going so well. The next square is This Is Halloween, a book that takes place on or around Halloween. And the hard mode version for this is Trick or Treating is mentioned. I don't know which book to choose for this one, because typically, I don't know, I don't usually look for the settings time within the year when I'm looking at books, so I don't know. I think I'm just gonna read, and if Halloween is mentioned, I'm just gonna count it. The next square is Blood on the Cover, a book that features blood imagery on the cover of the edition that you are reading. Hard mode, it is very recognizable and more than a couple drops. So the books that I chose for this box is The Night Guest with Hildur Knútsdóttir with Mary Robinette Kowal, who is the translator. So the description for this is, The Night Guest is an eerie and ensnaring story set in contemporary Reykjavik that is sure to keep you awake at night. Okay, so I believe this is an Icelandic book, and the main character's name is a name I've never come across before. I did Google Translate it, and it sounds like it's pronounced Idun, so if I'm pronouncing this incorrectly, I'm so sorry. So the description says, Ilun is in yet another doctor's office. She knows that her constant fatigue is a sign that something's not right, but practitioners dismiss her symptoms and blood tests haven't revealed any cause. When she talks to friends and family about it, the refrain is the same. Have you tried eating better, exercising more, establishing a nighttime routine? She tries to follow their advice, buying everything from vitamins to sleeping pills to a step counting watch. Nothing helps. Until one night, Idun falls asleep with the watch on and wakes up to find she's walked over 40,000 steps in the night. What is happening when she's asleep? Why is she waking up with incredibly disturbing injuries? And why won't anyone believe her? Yeah, that one sounds very interesting. I'm wondering, maybe this is dumb, but like, I think I'm wondering if this is about a vampire. It kind of sounds like it might. Like maybe she's a thrall or something. Maybe that's super obvious, and I'm just like, wow, I figured it out. But yeah, that one sounds really interesting. And obviously, the cover has like a glass full of blood, so I feel like that works. That's more than a couple drops for hard mode. And then the next book that I was thinking for the square was Mary, An Awakening of Terror by Nat Cassidy. So this is what the description says. Mary is a quiet, middle-aged woman doing her best to blend into the background, unremarkable, invisible, unknown even to herself. But lately things have been changing inside Mary. Along with the hot flashes and body aches, she can't look in a mirror without passing out, and the voices in her head have been urging her to do unspeakable things. Fired from her job in New York, she moves back to her hometown, hoping to reconnect with her past and inner self. Instead, visions of terrifying, mutilated specters overwhelm her with increasing regularity, and she begins auto-writing strange thoughts and phrases. Mary discovers that these experiences are echoes of an infamous serial killer. Then the killings begin again. Mary's definitely going to find herself. Yeah, I don't know. This is another one where like she has a glass and I think that's blood. It could be wine, but I think that's blood. Yeah, I just think that sounds very interesting. And the cover is also very interesting. Because, like, otherwise, this is kind of like a cozy scene. Like, you have your book and your wine. Sounds very nice. I don't know. There's also that cloth on the person's head. So it's just like, why is that there? What is that? But yeah, this one sounds really interesting. I feel like I've heard people talk about this book as well, pretty positively. So that will be exciting. And then the next book that I have, this one actually is a NetGalley, so I definitely want to get this one read. Description says, meet Kitty Collins, friend, lover, killer. He was following me, that guy from the nightclub who wouldn't leave me alone. I hadn't intended to kill him, of course, but I wasn't displeased when I did, and despite the mess I made, I appeared to get away with it. That's where my addiction started. I've got a taste for revenge, and quite frankly, I'm killing it. A deliciously dark, hilariously twisted story about friendship, love, and murder. Fans of My Sister the Serial Killer, How to Kill Your Family, and Killing Eve will love this wickedly clever novel. And I think I had requested this book because I don't know, it just sounds interesting. There's a genre of book that I've heard online like good for her books or I support women's wrongs kind of books. And this book kind of sounds like it fits in that niche. And I'm interested. I think I like the idea, but I'm not sure if I've read anything that like fits in this genre of book. I think I've seen some movies, but like I don't know that if I've ever read a book like that. So that one's definitely going to get read. So I'll probably put it here and then maybe use the others for something else if I get to them. But yeah, either way, that one is definitely getting read. And the blood, like as you can see, is on her dress and or her skirt, and that is more than a couple drops. So that counts for hard mode. The next box is Woods/Wilderness, a book that uses the woods as a main setting. Hard mode, there are not trees on the cover. I actually am having a hard time coming up with a book for this challenge, but I do have a couple of recommendations for it. I think Year of the Witching would count. Like the whole thing doesn't take place in a forest, but there are substantial forest times, and so I think that counts. There are trees on the cover though, so It won't count for the hard mode, but there are also there's blood spatter on the book, so it'll also work for the blood on the cover box. The Year of the Witching is about a woman in a puritanical society, so it's kind of like clearly it's very like based on like the Puritans, but it doesn't take place in reality. This is kind of a fictional like alternate universe. So yeah, it's kind of like a puritanical society and there are like corrupt leaders. It's not Christianity. I don't think that the town necessarily worships Christianity, but like I think it's heavily based off of, maybe. I just assumed when I was reading, but I could be totally wrong. Another book I would recommend for this challenge is Jackal by Erin E. Adams. This book is about a woman who is from like an Appalachian town and she had like gotten out. She had moved to New York City, but her best friend is still living in that town and she's getting married. Our main character gets invited to the wedding, and so she has to confront just like regular going back home vibes, and even though you're an adult traveling back home, you kind of feel like a kid again. And she's also dealing with some traumas that have happened to her since moving away from home. She braves it all to go to her friend's wedding, and at the friend's wedding, her friend's daughter, who she's responsible for, goes missing. I really enjoyed this book. Overall, the journey I think is definitely worth the read. All right, and then moving to the second row. So the first box is Honoring the Classics, a book that is either considered a horror classic or is a re-imaging / retelling of a classic. And then hard mode is a classic written before 1950. So I was thinking of reading A Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. I've read this one before, but I heard that there's an adaptation coming out, and I'm a little pissed off about it because there are definitely like homosexual overtones in this book, and especially between like these two characters, I won't say who. And in the adaptation that I think is coming out on Netflix, they're talking about making them siblings, and I hate that. I hate it. So I wanted to revisit this book. Yeah, I just think that's such a shame. That's so rude. I think that book is just like very interesting, and if you don't already know, Dorian Gray has a portrait painted of him, and it's supposed to like be capturing like his beauty or his soul. Dorian takes the painting home, and he I don't remember how he realizes, but he realizes that now he's like immortal, and you know, he'll never age and he'll be beautiful forever. He starts acting like a dick, and every time he does something that's like horrible, it's reflected on the painting and it's not reflected on him. It's just like a super interesting idea. It's a pretty short book, so it's not super long. I don't think it's more than 200 pages. I would definitely recommend it. I was also thinking about doing Dracula by Bram Stoker. I've read it before and it's just like very good. Something that I love about it is that it's an epistolary novel. The whole book is told through letters, and I just think that's so interesting. Like sometimes when I read classics, I feel like I'll read them and just be like, why did everyone like this? But like Dracula is one where it's just like, okay, I can completely understand why people like this. Dracula is just very good. And then I don't think it's older than 1950, so it doesn't count for hard mode. Another classic that I would recommend is The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson. This is my all-time favorite book. It is very different from the Netflix adaptation, and I think most adaptations of it. It's funny because it's just like, yeah, the way it's adapted is just like very, it's like so different from the book, which is fine. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's different from the Netflix version. It's a little similar to the 90s version. They did make some changes, and then not at all similar, I think, to the 1950s version. Yeah, not at all the same. The book, you have your main character, Nell. She has lived the majority of her adult life caring for her dying mother. Her mom eventually passes away, and the book starts with Nell living with her sister and her sister's family. So her sister has a husband and kids. I think she does like some child care and yeah, just basically lives under her sister's roof. And they share a car, Nell and her sister. One day she's like reading the newspaper and she sees an ad. I might be getting the movie, the 90s movie and the book mixed up. So I may have to revisit this book, period. Okay, in the movie it might be a sleep study, but I think it might be like for like occultists. I'm not sure. I can't remember. You know, it pays really well, and all you have to do is spend, I think, like a week or a month in Hill House. And so Nell is just like, this money would make it so like I could move out and I can finally start living my life. And she goes and talks to her sister, and her sister and her husband are just like, no, we need the car. End up just taking the car anyway and going. And so like she gets to the house and they have a psychic and a con man and someone else. But yeah, in the Netflix version, they make them all siblings, which I thought was so interesting. But in the book, they are all strangers, and they stay in the house, and strange things happen in the house. And I will just warn that like this book is not like jump scare scary. It's very, very subtle. It's very subtle horror, and I feel like a little more on like the existential dread side of horror. And I love this book because I just feel like it evokes like a feeling of like despair and loneliness so well. So if you are interested, I would definitely recommend that one. And then the next square is translated work, a book that is translated from the author's native language. And then the hard mode is the book also features a translator's note. A book that I mentioned before that would work for this is The Night Guest by Hildur Knútsdóttir, and then also Our Share of Night by Mariana Enríquez and Meg McDowell. I don't know if either of these have translators now. I know Wicked Reading had mentioned in one of her videos, she said she had a really hard time finding a book with a translator's note. But a book that I was thinking for this challenge is 19 Claws and a Blackbird by Augustina Bestarica with Sarah Moses. So you may recognize Augustina's name because she is the author of Tender is the Flesh, and I did really enjoy Tender is the Flesh. So I'm really interested to read more of her work. This is actually a collection of short stories, and short stories are not always my favorite, but I am willing to take a chance on Augustina because Tender of the Flesh was very solid. So the description says, through stories about violence, alienation, and dystopia, Bestarica's vision of the human experience emerges in complex and unexpected ways, often unsettling, sometimes thrilling, and always profound. In Roberto, a girl claims to have a rabbit between her legs. A woman's neighbor jumps to his death in a light, swift, and monstrous sound, and in Candy Pink, a woman fails to contend with a difficult breakup in 5 easy steps. Written in Bestarica's signature, clever, vivid style, these stories question love, friendship, family, relations, and unspeakable desires. And then another book I actually had checked out from the library is Confessions by Connie Minato. So here's what the description says. Her pupils murdered her daughter. Now she will have her revenge. After calling off her engagement in the wake of a tragic revelation, Yuko Moriguchi had nothing to live for except her only child, 4-year-old Manami. Now, Following an accident on the grounds of the middle school where she teaches, Yuko has given up and tendered her resignation. But first she has one last lecture to deliver. She tells a story that upends everything her students ever thought they knew about two of their peers, and sets in motion a diabolical plan for revenge. Narrated in alternating voices, with twists you'll never see coming, Confessions probes the limits of punishment, despair, and tragic love, culminating in harrowing confrontation between teacher and student that will place the occupants of an entire school in danger. You'll never look at a classroom the same way again. Yeah, I've heard really good things about Kane Minato as a writer, and I've always wanted to pick up her books. If you've seen my reading check-ins, one of the books that I'm reading is kind of a slog, and Confessions is the one that I really want to get to next, so hopefully I will before I have to return it to the library. Also, Our Share of Night by Mariana Enríquez with Megan McDowell also works for this challenge. The next box is Cover Pick, a book that interests you because of the cover. Hard mode is base the book completely on the cover with no idea of the synopsis. So I won't go and read the synopses for these. You know what? I actually just ruined a couple of options for myself because I used some of these to read the synopses for the past books, so I have to get rid of some of these. So there's All the Dead Lie Down by Kiri McCauley, Turn in Ashes by Melody Lynch, and The Devil Takes You Home by Gabiano Iglesias. Yeah, I don't remember why I thought these were interesting, so I guess that works with not knowing what the synopsis is. So let me know if you have read any of these and if you like them, but no details other than that. The next box is Reaper Read. Read a book where the themes surround death, grief, and etc. Hard mode is death is personified or otherwise symbolized by a physical being. So for this challenge, I chose Our Wives Under Sea. And the description is Mary thinks she's got her wife back when Leah finally returns after a deep sea mission that ended in catastrophe. It soon becomes clear, though, that Leah may have come back wrong. Whatever happened in that vessel, whatever it was they were supposed to be studying before they were stranded on the ocean floor, Leah has carried a part of it with her onto dry land and into their home. To have the woman she loves back should mean a return to normal life, but Miri can feel Leah slipping from her grasp. Memories of what they had before, the jokes they shared, the films they watched, all of the things that made Leah hers, only remind Miri of what she stands to lose. Living in the same space but suddenly separate, Miri comes to realize that the life that she had might be gone. I feel like an aspect of horror that sometimes gets overlooked is anything doing with the ocean. I am terrified of the open sea. It is maybe one of my biggest fears. I have a healthy respect of the ocean. I will never I will never question whether or not I can fight the ocean. I guess what I mean is just if I am ever iffy about going on the ocean ever, I just will not go because the ocean doesn't care. And it's not even being mean. It just doesn't care and it'll kill you. Another thing is you can't control anything with the ocean. You can have whatever plans you want. It doesn't matter. The ocean doesn't care. Anything could happen. Anything could happen in the ocean. It's a terrifying place. I think I'm gonna like this, and by this, I think I'm gonna be terrified and won't be able to look at bodies of water for a little bit. We're going into fall, so I probably won't be near bodies of water for a little bit. But yeah, I'm really excited for this one. This is also the author of Private Rites, so, I hope I like this author, because it sounds like she is making books that I will enjoy. And then some other books that I feel would fit this box are How to Kill Men and Get Away with It by Katy Brent, and The Devil Takes You Home by Gabiano Iglesias, and Confessions by Kane Minato. The next box is Title Has a Spooky Word, a book where the title features a spooky word. Examples are ghost, grave, haunting, death, etc. For the hard mode, the title has to have 2 or more spooky words. So some of the choices that I chose for this, I put down 19 Claws and a Blackbird by Augustina Bastarrica. Claws, Blackbird, I don't know, I feel like those could be a little spooky. spooky words. And then another option that I have chosen is Monstrilio by Gerardo Samano Cordova. So the description is: grieving mother Magos cuts out a piece of her deceased 11-year-old son Santiago's lung. Acting on fierce maternal instincts and the dubious logic of an old folk tale, she nurtures the lung until it grows sentience, growing into the carnivorous little monstrilio she keeps hidden within the walls of her family's decaying Mexico City estate. Eventually, Monstrilio begins to resemble the Santiago he once was. But his innate impulses, though curbed by his biological and chosen family's communal care, threaten to destroy this fragile second chance at life. A thought-provoking meditation on grief, acceptance, and the monstrous sides of love and loyalty. Yeah, no, it sounds very good. I'm really excited about this one. I love my symbolic reads. And also, like, it mentions like this folktale that I have no knowledge of, so I think that's really cool. Just like learning about a new mythology or a new creature. Definitely the season too as well. I also put down All the Dead Lie Down by Kiri McCauley, How to Kill a Man and Get Away with It by Katy Brent, The Devil Takes You Home by Gabiano Iglesias, and The Sleepless by Victor Manibo. So starting in on the third row, the first box is Dead Man Walking, a book that features reanimated corpses or zombies. And then the hard mode is the book is part of a series. So I didn't find anything that was part of a series. To be honest, zombie horror is not my favorite. It's just not one that I jive with. And I'm definitely not into it enough to want to read a series. But the book that I'm looking at is Severance by Ling Ma. So the description is: Candace Chen, a millennial drone self-sequestered in a Manhattan office tower, is devoted to routine. With the recent passing of her Chinese immigrant parents, she's had her fill of uncertainty. She's content to just carry on. She goes to work, troubleshoots the teen-targeted Gemstone Bible, and watches movies in a Greenpoint basement with her boyfriend. So Candace barely notices when a plague of biblical proportions sweeps New York. Then Shen fever spreads. Families flee. Companies cease operations. The subway screeches to a halt. Her bosses enlist her as part of a dwindling skeleton crew with a big end date payoff. Soon entirely alone, still unfevered, she photographs the eerie abandoned city as the anonymous blogger NY Ghost. Candace won't be able to make it on her own forever, though. Enter a group of survivors, led by the power-hungry IT tech Bob. They're traveling to a place called The Facility, where Bob promises they will have everything they need to start a society anew. But Candace is carrying a secret she knows Bob will exploit. Should she escape from her rescuers? A send-up and take-down of the rituals, routines, and missed opportunities of contemporary life, Ling Ma's Severance is a moving family story, a quirky coming-of-age adult tale, and a hilarious deadpan satire. So this book was also written like before the pandemic, and I was listening to Reads with Cindy talk about this, and it sounds like despite happening before the pandemic, there are a lot of things that ring true. And I'm just very interested in this one because I had this on my TBR for forever. And then the next box is Genre Bending, a book that combines horror with another genre. For example, a horror with fantasy elements, a horror with romance, etc. And then hard mode, one of the genres is one that you do not typically read. So I included The Night Guest by Hildur Knútsdóttir because I think, well, horror and mystery I think often go together. So this one might be a little bit of a stretch. I also put The Devil Takes You Home by Gabiano Iglesias. You know, I put this book in a couple of boxes, but I don't know. I must have read the synopsis when I was making this list, and then I completely forgot what it's about. Thank you, past me, for forgetting. And I also put The Sleepless by Victor Manibo. I think that one's supposed to be like kind of sci-fi horror, And I do have an appreciation for sci-fi, but I just haven't read it in a long time, so I think that might count. So the next one is a 5-star read, a book you gave 5 stars, and then hard mode is you predicted it would be a 5-star read. I would love to fulfill this one in general. I hope there are many that I can put here. But Confessions by Kane Minato is one of the books I think will be a 5-star for me. But other than that, I'm just kind of going off vibes. And then the next one is written by a BIPOC author. Hard mode is the book is by an author that is new to you. So there are some books that I already had talked about. So there's Monstrilio by Gerardo Samano Cordova, and then Truth in Ashes by Melody Lynch, The Devil Takes You Home by Gabiano Iglesias, Confessions by Kane Minato, Our Share of Night by Mariana Enríquez, and then I was also looking at Chlorine by Jade Song. So the description for this book is, Ren Yu is a swimmer. Her daily life starts and ends with the pool. Her teammates are her only friends, her coach her guiding light. If she swims well enough, she will be scouted, get a scholarship, and go to a good school. Her parents will love her. Her coach will be kind to her. She will have a good life. But these are human concerns. These are the concerns of those confined to land, those with legs. Ren grew up on stories of creatures of the deep, of the oceans and the rivers. Ones that called sailors to their doom, ones that dragged them down and drowned them, ones that feasted on their flesh, ones of the creature that she always longed to become, a mermaid. Ren aches to be in the water. She dreams of the scent of chlorine and to feel it on her skin. And she will do anything she can to make a life for herself where she can be free, no matter the pain, no matter what anyone else thinks, no matter how much blood she has to spill. Yeah, I don't know what to call it, water horror should be slept on. In the recommendations, I had heard that it was similar to The Vegetarian by Hong Kong, and I love that book. So I'm very interested in reading this if it's anything like The Vegetarian. And then the next square is Cryptid, a book that features a cryptid creature, for example, Mothman, Bigfoot, unicorns, etc. And then hard mode is the creature is one that you did not know about or did not know the lore of before. For this one, I think Monstrilio by Gerardo Samano Cordova would work for this one. And then Chlorine by Jade Song. Of course, I know what a mermaid is, so I wouldn't get the hard mode for this one. And then Truth in the Ashes by Melody Lynch. On the 4th row, next box is Title Has a Number, a book where the title features a number, written out or numerical. Hard mode is title includes more than one number or has a number plus a quantitative plus a quantitative word. For example, midnight, half, inch. And so the only book that I could think of that meets this criteria is 19 Claws and a Blackbird by Agustina Bazterrica. Yeah, I think that's the only one that I could find on my Storygraph TBR that matched this. And then the next book is Satanic Panic, a book that features elements of the occult. Hard mode is a physical item is used in the book that falls under the occult. So that could be tarot cards, Ouija boards, talismans, etc. So 2 books that I think match this one are Private Rites by Julie Armfield and Our Share of Night by Mariana Enríquez with Megan McDowell. And then the next box is a book club pick. And obviously that's read a book that is through a book club. And there's no hard mode. And I appreciate that because I actually have a hard time joining book clubs. So we'll see. And then the next book is Pink Horror, a book that has themes of girlhood/womanhood. And the hard mode is book is a debut. And so the books that I have chosen for this box is The Night Guest by Hildur Knútsdóttir and Natural Beauty by Ling Huang. So Natural Beauty, the description is, our narrator produces a sound from the piano no one else at the conservatory can. She employs a technique she learned from her parents, also talented musicians, who fled China in the wake of the Cultural Revolution. But when an accident leaves her parents debilitated, she abandons her future for a job at a high-end beauty and wellness store in New York City. Holistic is known for its remarkable products and procedures, from remoras that suck out cheap Botox to eyelash extensions made of spider silk. And her new job affords her entry into a world of privilege and gives her a long-awaited sense of belonging. She becomes transfixed by Helen, the niece of Holistic's charismatic owner, and the two strike up a friendship that hazily veers into more. All the while, our narrator is piled with products that slim her thighs, smooth her skin, and lighten her hair, but beneath these creams and tinctures lies something sinister. I don't know what you would call this, like quests for immortality or quests for beauty kind of books. I guess like very similar to A Picture of Dorian Gray. No, I just think this idea is like super interesting. So I'm excited to see like where that goes. I've also seen this recommended by a couple people like on BookTube and BookTok. So I'm excited to see what it's about. The next book I have chosen is How Can I Help You by Laura Sims. And the description is, no one knows Margot's real name. Her colleagues and patrons at a small town public library only know her middle-aged normalcy, congeniality, and charm. They have no reason to suspect that she is, in fact, a former nurse with a trail of countless premature deaths in her wake. She has turned a new page, so to speak, and the library is her sanctuary, a place to quell old urges. That is, at least, until Patricia, a recent graduate and failed novelist, joins the library staff. Patricia quickly notices Margot's subtly sinister edge and watches her carefully. When a patron's death in the library bathroom gives her a hint of Margot's mysterious past, Patricia can't resist digging deeper, even as this new fixation becomes all-consuming. And I'm interested in this because I work in libraries, and so I'm hoping it'll be accurate to like what being a librarian and working at a library actually is. I'm a little skeptical because like you do know you have to get a master's degree for this profession. Not all libraries will require it, but I don't know. I don't love the fact that it's like oh, failed novelist, because it's just like you don't go to the library because you failed at something else. Like the library is its own thing. I have a lot of respect for the profession, and if this book doesn't, I will have an issue, but I'm keeping my mind open. And I also put down All the Dead Lie Down by Kiri McCauley and Chlorine by Jade Song. And then the next box is Multiple POV, a book that has more than one point of view. And then hard mode is there's also dual/multiple timelines. So I believe, actually, the book that I just talked about, How Can I Help You by Laura Sims, it sounds like that one has multiple points of view. I think I had mentioned another book that fits that criteria. And this is another one where it's just, I'm going to read, and then if I come across the multiple timelines, I'm just going to count it. Starting in on the 5th row, the next box is As Seen on the Big Screen, a book that has a film or show adaptation. And then the hard mode is you haven't seen the film or show. And so a book that I have had on my TBR for the longest time is The Exorcist by William Peter Blatty. I have not seen the movie. I know when I was growing up, my mom was just like, no, you will never watch this movie. It's too terrifying. I don't know. I'm curious to see if I will actually be afraid of it. I'm no longer Christian, and I've noticed that like a lot of horror that would have like totally freaked me out maybe like a decade ago doesn't really now that I don't hold those beliefs. And so I'm really curious to see like if this is as scary as people have told me that this is. And then I'm kind of excited to watch the movie. I've heard like interesting tidbits about the movie, so yeah, we'll see. And then also I recently watched The Front Room with Brandy, and I am obsessed with that movie. In the beginning credits, it mentioned that The Front Room was actually a short story, so I'd love to go and find that short story and read it. The next box is Out of Your Comfort Zone, a horror book that is a subgenre you don't typically read. And then hard mode is you have read from the author before. The next book is Wizard and Glass. I've already tried to read this book and it's definitely outside of my comfort zone. I am not comforted at all when I'm reading this book. Stephen King, like, I feel like sometimes when I read a book of his, I'll enjoy it and then I'll start to hate it and then I'll enjoy it and then I'll be like, why did you put this in here? I feel like that is the reading journey for many Stephen King novels. So we'll see if I can get through this. Otherwise, I'll have to pick something else. The next box is a short story collection. So read a short story collection, and then hard mode. The collection features more than 12 stories. And then of course I put here 19 Claws and a Blackbird by Agustina Bastarrica. And I'm pretty sure that has 19 stories. So that counts for hard mode. And then TBR Vet, a book that has been on your TBR for a long time. And then hard mode, a book that you have had on your TBR for over 2 years or is the oldest book on your TBR. So 2 books that would fit here are Confessions by Kane Minato and also Severance by Ling Ma. Both of those books I've had on my TBR for at least 2 years, so I will probably read either of those. The last box is Creepy Crawlies, a book that features creepy crawlies. Examples are snakes, bugs, spiders, etc. And then hard mode is there's also imagery of them on the cover. I had only seen a clip of the adaptation of Gyo by Junji Ito, which are these like fish on legs and like they're super creepy and like they run around and they come out of the water and just like run at you and attack you. And so I think I'm gonna choose Gyo by Junji Ito. Yeah, because I definitely feel like that's a creepy crawler. And how I usually approach readathons is like I will do the easiest way first, and then like if there's time, like I'll challenge myself a little more and more and more. So, what I'm going to do first is there are some books that I've mentioned that kind of overlap for some of the boxes. The first time I go around this bingo board is I'm going to count like a book for multiple boxes. I don't know if that's allowed, but it's okay. And so, yeah, that's how I'm gonna first go through. Because, like, I never know, like, how the year is going to go. I feel pretty confident that I'll be able to finish this whole board. But, yeah, who knows what the year has in store. So, yeah, so first we're gonna do, what do they call it? Double dips. First, we're going to do double dips. I may attempt a diagonal or a straight across bingo. And once I get there, I may try a blackout. And after that, I may try to do all hard mode. I would prefer for this to stay fun. And I just want to get rid of like any like big expectations because like I feel like that's how I fall into slumps. I make reading not fun for myself. So yeah, I think that's how I'm gonna approach going about reading this. And like I said, I will add Wicked Reading's video to the end of this video, so keep an eye out for it. But let me know if you are going to participate in the horror bingo, what books you're thinking of reading, and how you would like to approach your bingo board. And let me know if you're thinking of reading of any of these books. And then for the boxes that I had trouble filling out, if you have any suggestions, I would love to hear them. Otherwise, thank you for watching and happy reading.